I have some questions for you. Do you want to put these in here? But you can't because you have these in here? So then you cut these out and put these in? And you still want to be able to sit here? And you want to be able to close this? Well, it's not there. Just use your imagination. That was a bad idea. But if you answered yes to any of those questions, or all of those questions, or if you answered no, keep watching. All right, guys, enough shenanigans. Welcome back to American Nostalgia Garage. I'm Steve. Today is going to be part 2 of our mini tub series. It's not really a series because there's only 2 videos. If you haven't watched the first video about installing the actual tubs, I'll try to link it somewhere. This video is actually going to be about the seat brace modification, the seat back frame modification, and installing trunk hinges. Might have to make one, I'm not entirely sure, but let's get to it. We're going to start with the seat back frame. So the frame that the foam and the seat cover are attached to. So I'm going to show you why there needs to be a modification, and then I'm going to walk you through how we're doing it. Right now I'm in the back of the trunk, and I can't really reach in there, but if you look, there's that bar that runs vertically, and there's a bar that runs from the side of our seat frame, and it kind of like bends down like this. It's right there, and that's going to hit. So our seat is actually not even pushed all the way in right now, and the bottom of the seat is not pushed all the way back right now, and it's already pretty much like about to touch. Also, really hard to see this way, but down at the bottom, the actual frame itself is hitting the wheel tub. So that's got to be moved. Got the seat back up on my trunk, aka work table. Just want to show you guys exactly what we're doing here. So this right here normally contours to the wheel well. Our wheel wells are, I think they're 2 or 2.5 inches wider than the stock ones. So kind of this bend needs to be sort of over here now. And actually it turns out that this is just where I marked with a marker inside without actually measuring anything. Here, there's a little bit less interference, but we're going to make the move anyway. So basically this bend needs to be moved inboard, same thing. The other part I was trying to explain to you, which you probably couldn't see, was down here. There's a bend that contours this way around the wheel tub. What we need to do is we need to move this entire contour, you know, the 2.5 inches or 2 inches inboard that it would be now with the bigger wheel tub. Now I understand that there may be some questions because this seat cover is installed and it's brand new. Go watch that interior video, you might enjoy it. Now I've got to cut and weld on the seat frame on a seat that has brand new dry burlap on it. Not flammable at all. If you guys watch the channel, you know that I am not taking the seat cover off to do this repair. I try to do the least amount of work, and I hope you guys can appreciate that. What they want you to do is they want you to section out, you know, 2 or 2.5 inches from here, relocate it here, and then move this entire thing the 2.5 inches over. So cut here, cut 2.5 inches out here, move this whole thing over the 2.5 inches, then take the piece that was over here and weld it in over here. What they want you to do here, I believe, is cut it here and like turn it around or something. I'm not entirely sure. Once I have this out, I'll know more about it. This side may not be an issue, but that side, we may have to actually take this bar and bend it inward. Problem with that is it's not going to get any longer because, you know, it's a flat bar and the flat bar doesn't want to make a curve. So if I do need to bend this over, I might have to cut it, push it over, and then weld in a short section of rod just to make up the distance. That's what we're going to do. All so we could just sit in this car and have wheels on it at the same time. Winning. I think it's worth mentioning, the reason I'm doing this video is because these instructions, I think, leave a little bit to imagination. There could be more pictures, you know, like pictures. If you read them and you really think, I don't know what they were planning here, like, oh, we have to think about stuff now. You can figure it out, but just a visual aid here is what this video is going to be. So what they want you to do is they want you to take, this is the vertical rod right here. This is the diagonal rod that they mention in the instructions. And this is the cross rod, this one. So what they want you to do is measure 5 inches from here, which brings us to right there. I have a mark there. 2.5 inches from where this diagonal rod intersects this cross rod. 2.5 inches is there. So what they want you to do is cut it right there and then cut it right here. And then I think they want you to flip it and then bend this rod over, which is amazing because earlier I actually said that this might have to be bent over, and it looks like it's going to be. So let's get to some cutting, and I'm going to do minimal effort to make sure that this doesn't light on fire. Alright, I got a cross rod knocked off. It was like this, and now they want you to put it, flip it, and put it back like this. And honestly, that looks like it's going to work. It's a pretty nifty little thing. I did have to cut a lot of this one away. I don't know if anybody's got a better idea on how to get this off of this other rod. But, you know, that's what I did. I'm going to actually have to fill that back in with some weld. All right, here's our piece. I put a little weld on it just to fill that section back in. They want us to weld it in back in like this. So I'm going to weld in the bottom. Okay, I feel obligated to tell you that I'm shooting sparks all over the inside of the seat. This is obviously very dangerous. So, not the best way to do this at all. Alright, you can see what we achieved here. This is much further over. If you remember, this rod was on this side of this diagonal tube. Now, they want you to do something like this. I don't think that's going to make it all the way over there, so I might have to cut and add a little section in there. I think I have some, you know, 1/8 or 3/16 round tube or whatever this is, a round rod. But you can see, my hand can fit behind this. We made some room for sure. I definitely need to tell you this is not the safest way to do this. But I also am obligated to tell you that you definitely can do it like. Although I don't suggest that you do it this way. If you're a lot like me, you probably will anyway. So now we've just got to do the other side. Same thing. And then we've got to work on the lower seat frame. Alright guys, as it turns out, there's a reason that they tell you to take the seat cover off. And that's because now I have 3 little holes in my seat. I'm not too thrilled about it. But, you know, you live and you learn. I tried. So learn from my mistakes. Anyway, this diagonal bar, they want you to bend over to here. That's not going to happen. So what I did is I took a mark as a reference point up here, and then I took a square and I sent it over to where I wanted to land on this. Got a length, comes out to be I think 9.5. So then I took this square, put it here, marked 9.5. I'll cut there, and that'll be my point where I can bend over to here, so I know I reach. I'll have to add some to this lower section, which I'm going to bend over, so I'll show you in a minute. Now I can take this piece, bend it over to where I want, which is there. I can weld it there, I know it'll reach. And then I've got to take this piece, bend that over, and then I've got to add a little bit. So I actually have to go get some. I think I have some in my scrap pile here, so. All right, here's what we got. We got our flipped section here. I cut and bent this section over here, and then I added a little bit there. Yes, it looks crude. Yes, it doesn't look great. No, it doesn't matter, because nobody's going to see this. And you'll be able to put big tires, so you'll feel a whole lot better about knowing that that's there. Got both sides done. Now we've got to focus our attention in cutting this off and relocating it inboard. But that's not happening tonight. It's very late and I'm tired and I'm hungry. And I don't want to do any more welding tonight because now I've got to sit around and wait like a half hour, 45 minutes, just to make sure nothing's on fire. So we'll pick it up again in the morning. All right, back at it here. We've got to section out the bottom of the seat frame like I explained earlier. Although I want to make a correction to myself. Didn't necessarily say this in the instructions, which is why I'm doing this. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Chances are you're a whole lot smarter than me, but I originally was going to take the 2 inches out of right here, and then it occurred to me that if I do that, and this whole section that's on this side moves over the 2 inches, each one of these springs has to kind of move over with it, and they're old and they're really designed to be where they are. So I'm actually not going to take the 2 inches from here, and when you were watching this you may have known that right off the bat. I'm going to take the 2 inches, 2 1/4 inches even, just to give myself a little extra room out of here. Reason being, when we move this whole section over to give us to move this curved section over and give us the extra room for the wheel well, we're going to pretty much lose this spring anyway. I actually took it off. So it's going to move this whole section over to about here, which means this spring is going to be pretty much irrelevant anyway. So we're going to take it out of here just so that we don't disturb these springs, and really only disturbed one, which we're not going to be using anyway. So we're going to cut the 2-inch section out of here, weld it down here, and then move this over and re-weld it. Don't worry about why it looks like my laundry room in here. Wet some rags, put a metal backer so that I wouldn't burn my seat again, because 3 holes in the seat is 3 holes more than I want to have. So anyway, this is the 2 inches that was cut out from up here. I relocated it down here. Now you can see the bend is a lot further over. If you remember, there was a 2-inch section up here, so this bend would have started about here. Now we've gained all that distance for the wheel well. I've got to do it again on that side, and then the seat is done. And we have some other stuff to work on, so let me finish the other side and we'll move on. All right, guys, I got the seat done, mocked it into place just to make sure. Probably should have checked to make sure it fit before I finish welded it, but Anyway, the next thing I'm going to do is also related to the seat, which is the seat backs. Now, I want to show you, I wanted to make sure that I did this beforehand so that I didn't show you guys something incorrect. Turns out I lost the instructions for this, which is kind of funny because I didn't really use them anyway. Well, not really the instructions. I lost the template for the seat back. So I did 2 different types of attempts here, and I'm going to show you what we did. So on the driver's side, what I did is I just whittled it out. I just kept taking it on, taking it off until it fit, and it kind of fits okay. What I also did is I put painter's tape from here to here and just made like stripes all the way down, and then I traced with a marker, and it came out okay. The other method I'm going to show you on the passenger side I like better, but it looks uglier. Let me show you. So on the passenger side, what I did is I put the piece in and I started pie cutting it all the way around the radius, and I just kept going further and further until it basically fit the wheel tub, and I just bent it back to make a flange. Now this will weld better. This will actually probably come out better than the other side, but it kind of looks, it looks ugly like that, but you know what? It's behind the seat. So what I would say would be use the template that came in the instructions if you can. So I'm going to weld these in, and then we're going to move on to the trunk braces. All right, well, here's one seat brace welded in. You could see by all the holes of light coming through that didn't weld great. There's the other side. That side actually came out way better. So the pie cut and flap idea is much better. But anyway, if you have the instructions, use the template. Speaking of templates, the next thing for us to do is make some trunk hinge brackets. They give you a template. I actually have this template. They label the bend lines, right? But they don't tell you which way to bend. Point is, you need to come up with something sort of like this. And this is for the driver's side. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to do for the passenger side. We'll figure it out. All right, we got our trunk hinge bracket in. It's welded. It's nice and sturdy. If you notice, though, this trunk bracket, which somebody decided to oval out, doesn't go all the way down. It actually hits our wheel tub. So I don't know if you can make it out. I made a line. There's a line that has to be cut out on this in order to make it fit. So we're gonna cut that and it'll swing all the way down. All right, so let me show you where we're at. We got the one side trunk hinge done. We've got to do the other side. Now the instructions basically just say, okay, now that you have two newly fabricated trunk braces, just weld them in. It gives you a template for one, it doesn't give you a template for the other. It's really vague. It just says basically, magically you should have a trunk brace. I'm going to end up making one because it's kind of a fairly easy template to come up with, I think. But if you're not into doing that, I can show you a trick that I kind of got curious about, and it seems it actually works. This is the old trunk brace from the passenger side. I kind of cut it. This was bent down here, and this was at an angle. So what I did is, this piece was normally, it used to be off at an angle like that. What I did is I just gave it to Mr. Pac-Man, and then I bent it back straight, because really it just seems that we need this exact trunk brace, but taller. Honestly, I could have probably used it if just where the bend originally was, if it was just maybe an inch or two taller. So this seems to work, and if you wanted to, if you really wanted to put a brace in there, you could put a piece of filler metal in there and weld, but I assume if you were going to do that, you probably would just make one. If you really didn't want to, you could actually use this though. So that's good to have in mind. I'm going to make up a little pattern and we'll just make one. Alright guys, well here's the reference. And this is what we ended up with. And not for nothing, going back to what I mentioned about this being pretty much usable if you wanted to, what I ended up with, which works perfectly, looks a lot like this. So you can use this if you want. Alright, and that's our other trunk hinge welded in. Now I can just finish up all the welds, you know, grind everything down, make it nice, or not. It's up to you. But basically, these are the things that I think the instructions could have been better at. Obviously, of course, I could have been better at it also, but hopefully this was helpful to you guys that looked at the instructions like I did and said, there's a lot of questions here, you know, seat brackets and whatnot. So hopefully you guys enjoyed part 1 and part 2 of this little series with the mini tubs. If you did, I would be really thankful if you guys would consider subscribing to the channel, drop a like below. All that stuff really helps the channel grow, and it helps me buy new junk so I can show you guys the stupid stuff I'm doing it here in the garage. As always, thank you guys for watching. American Nostalgia Garage out.